Thank you. Thanks for inviting us for this session. The topic is capital compliance and confidence. While I wanted to start with compliance first, but we understand Mr. Agarwal he's got some commitments. And before we straight away goes to, question, I just wanted to, mention that last 10 years, we have seen the reforms, particularly for the real estate sector. RERA was brought in, and simultaneously, insolvency and the bankruptcy code also came in. While both the regulations were supposed to be complementing each other, but we will hear more from our other panelists about the real experience on the ground. So both these reforms were critical, were required, and there have been also positive outcomes out of that. So my question to Mr. Agarwal, he brings in a developer's experience that has the compliance burden been, enhanced over the period of time because of RERA requirements of various disclosures or the, escrow arrangements? What is your experience with respect to, because of RERA, have you seen the compliance, burden increasing on the developers as such?
Thank you, Mr. Gang. Myself, Santosh Agarwal, and I agree with you that there are compliances which has increased. But, any industry works fair when it is properly following the law of the land and complying with the rules which are better for the society and the industry as well. Over a period of time, yes, RERA has brought in certain compliances which were very much necessary for the industry. Investors were investing funds into this. People were putting their hard-earned money into this. So this was very well required. Certain compliances has increased, which has actually given the insight about the industry to different people. Now, which, everybody used to say that, this industry is the industry of the crooked people. At least that thing is going away. So now people are thinking that this is also a compliant industry like any other industry. Every industry is following certain set of rules. They have to comply with the certain rules. And so this industry. So we don't see, and considering if you take, every industry is following some set of rules which they are complying upon. And making it, easier for us also that yes, we are compliant. We can go to any forum and say, yes, we have been compliant. IBC has brought in that kind of, you can say, discipline within the industry people, not only the real estate industry, but every industry. If you talk about the steel industry, if you talk about any industry which is related to this, yes, there is some kind of discipline has come in after the IBC has come into the picture and all that. So I welcome all these compliances. Yes, there are certain compliances which are creating hurdles sometimes, which needs to be, reformed and should met with the expectation of the industry also.
Sure. Thank you. I think Mr. Sandeep has seen on the ground with his experience from tribunals, from many litigations which are there regarding real estate assets. Sir, do you think that RERA and IBC are overlapping, or while as I mentioned that these were supposed to be complementing each other, but we have seen there are various litigations which are there because of rather there are conflicting situations between RERA and IBC. Once the insolvency starts for any entity, then because of the moratorium provisions, a lot of things are not being done which were required to be done as per RERA orders. So a lot of home buyers are, having a painful time with respect to their RERA orders not been, considered once the insolvency starts. And at times we have also seen that, there is some sort of, forum shopping also happening between RERA and IBC. So how has been your experience and input on this particular things?
Uh, First of all, I thank HT Media and Mint to inviting me on this panel discussion on real estate and IBC. Siddharth, so coming to your question, you would see that both these acts, RERA and Insolvency and Bankruptcy Court, came in the year 2016. Now, RERA was a specialized act meant only for real estate, whereas IBC was an act which was designed not for real estate. It was an act which was designed for manufacturing industries. However, 2015, till between 2015 to 2019, the world knows the three major giants in real estate fell and defaulted in their funding, which was JP, Amrapali, and Unitech. And when Section 7 was initiated against these three companies, and when the COC was constituted, the Committee of Creditors, the home buyers found themselves nowhere in the Committee of Creditors. It was largely controlled by the financial lenders. So this is when the hue and cry really erupted. And that it is the money, more than the bankers, it is the money of these home buyers who stuck in these projects, hundreds and thousands of crores, and they do not find themselves in the Committee of Creditors, which will take decisions on the future of their projects. So ultimately, you all would know Chitra Sharma, Honorable Supreme Court, then gave a representation in form of an authorized representative to the home buyers of JP. So actually that pressure prompted and the government to bring in the amendment in 2018 in section 5(8)(f) of the IBC, wherein the amount raised from the borrowers was considered as a financial debt. Yeah. So here actually, in my view, was the overlapping. The overlapping started over here. Then once this amendment was upheld in Pioneer Urban, the Honorable Supreme Court, while admitting that these two legislations have to coexist, but a line over there said that in the eventuality of any conflict, IBC would prevail over RERA. Actually, I think that finding or that observation today needs a relook. And for that purpose, I think before the relook happens, once an IBC petition is admitted, CIRP is initiated, Section 14 comes into play, which brings in the moratorium, which means every litigation by or against the corporate debtor comes to a standstill. There cannot be any coercive action against the corporate debtor. Now, which means RERA also comes to a standstill. So in that perspective, and unfortunately, as I had earlier said, IBC was never designed for real estate. It was actually paratrooped by that judgment amendment of 2018, that home buyers were considered as a financial creditor. So when I say that it needs a relook, I think before that we need to strengthen RERA. RERA is actually designed for real estate. There should be more implementation, guiding properly how to implement a project, how to, like it's a more transparent regulation wherein the developer needs to give a lot of disclosures. There is a 70-30 distribution of funds received by the developer in form of construction and administrative expenses. There is compliance of the timelines. So I think we need more stronger RERA, and IBC should be protected. It's a beautiful piece of legislation, but it should be protected for insolvency where it is mandatorily required, where it is required. Unfortunately, because of this IBC, I think everybody over here would agree with it has been misused to a very, very large extent. So that misuse has to stop. This beautiful piece of legislation has to be preserved. And for that preservation, I think we need a more stronger RERA, especially for real estate.
Absolutely. Misuse needs to stop, and in that context, I would go to Anuranjan first, because they are capital providers, right? And this market, close to, I think, 7 to 8% is the real estate market of our GDP.
Yeah.
And in that context, the 50 lakh crores worth of this real estate market,
Yeah.
how do you see from the capital provider's perspective, has the regulations of RERA improved the interest of the capital providers? Is that comfort gone up, or do you still see challenges on those?
No, definitely. After RERA, the comfort of capital providers have improved in a big way. RERA has solved a lot of problems which every private equity investor was facing in implementing. Like we used to keep some clauses in the agreement that there will be a dedicated project account. The private equity investor will be co-signatory. We will monitor those accounts. These particular clauses is now also legally, supported to make sure that the money which we are investing in the project, the money which is coming from customers, is not diverted, and whatever business plan we have made, there is a probability that the project will follow those timelines and without misuse of the fund. I think what has happened, RERA, somewhere, some problems they have solved. A lot of things needs to be done. When I compare with RERA of other countries like Dubai or Australia, where in one country, RERA requires that at least 30% of construction cost is taken care on the day of launch before you really take money from customers. That protects customers, that there is a financial closure. In one country, there is a law that you show financial closure for the project, whether by way of customer advances, whether by way of project loan, or whether by way of equity, before you really start construction. So that the in-between construction period, you don't see deficiencies of any funds and your project is not. See, RERA was introduced because a lot of projects got halted. More than 5 lakh units in NCR and other cities were not able to complete because of diversion of funds. And what I believe is that the real estate economy is going to be like $1 trillion economy by 2032 or 2035. And if we have a sound legal backing with laws like RERA and all, the flow of capital will be easy. Only thing is, we need to be very fast. The process should not become punishment. That means if there is any litigation against any developer, or is there any disputes inter se between any party, it should be resolved fast. Maybe within a time-bound manner of, say, 6 months, 4 months, 5 months. That's all. Otherwise, foreign capital actually is, particularly FDI in India, in real estate, is missing in development project. Of course, in ready assets, it's coming. But we need to introspect on that.
Right. Thanks. Now, I would move to, we heard capital providers' perspective, we heard developers' perspective, we had legal positions with respect to RERA and insolvency code, and now we hear home buyers' perspective from Mr. Abhay Upadhyay, 10 years of RERA and IBC. How have you seen, we have often heard you saying that RERA is good, but execution remains a challenge. What are the ground realities? What is the home buyers' perspective with respect to, are they happy, are there positive signs, or they are still struggling?
Thank you, Siddharth, for giving me this opportunity. So when we are talking about RERA, so I think we are mixing two things. One is RERA and the other one is RERA implementation. There's a difference between those two things. If you see RERA as an act, so let me say that the kind of provisions which are there in the very first draft, and it is 10 years it is going through. So I will definitely give distinction. The act has been very well made. Almost all aspect of home buyers issue, because you see, RERA never came for builders. Builders never demanded it. RERA never came so that a sector can be developed, because had that been the issue, it would have been state law. I'm sure lawyer we have here. Development, the building laws, passing sanction approval, land, everything state subject. So from that angle, if you see, so RERA is a very good act, and I will give it a distinction. The problem is in implementation. Now, why RERA was brought in, not because real estate was not doing well. I'm sure the people who are tracking RERA will agree with me. 2000 till 2010, it was a booming period, and as somebody mentioned, although 5 lakh unit was stuck, so where from those 5 lakh came if there was no real estate or no sector, or it was not doing well? And even Amitabh committee, if you see, they have also mentioned some 5 lakh dwelling units to be stressed. So all those are pre-RERA. So the problem is with regard to implementation. Now, 10 years of RERA, if you see, let me put it this way, कि RERA was a vehicle which was supposed to clean the entire sector from the perspective of home buyer. Now, thankfully, in last 10 years, that vehicle is ready. We have a robust authority, appellate tribunal, almost in every state. They are doing their prime job. Prime job is not the final objective. This is a primary. I'm telling level 1 job was to register a project and to file a complaint. So up till that part, they are doing it. Of course, registration, we are not very happy, as you must have seen, that paper, they have made it a mechanical process. They are not checking the documents, and that is why projects which do not have proper papers are getting registered. Later on, it is being discovered, and it is creating problem. But simultaneously, if you see what was the objective, was not only, only registration cannot be a objective, or somebody coming and filing a complaint cannot be a objective of making a law. The law, why was registration required? Because it was also a preventive act. It was not a curative act like consumer approach. So it was a preventive. So to prevent that, the legislator thought that why not register it so that the authority will have in control everything about the project. They will know. So that aspect was registration. What prevention they did? After registering that project, can we say that the project will now complete in time? That there will be no fund diversion, that there will be no one-sided agreement, that there will be no changes in sanction and plans and approval without consent of the allottee, that there will be no extortion in the name of some kind of a charges, some hidden charges. So you see, basic things which were there, that in 10 years RERA should have taken care of, has not been taken care of. Not one malpractices which were prevalent before RERA came into existence has been completely eliminated. So if that be the case, I'm sure if I have to give as a home buyer a number out of 100 on the performance of the RERA, not as a law, because law cannot perform on its own. So I will not even like to give pass mark. The authority which failed to eliminate even one malpractice in last more than a decade of its existence, I don't think that deserves even pass mark. So RERA as an implementation vehicle has completely failed in its objective. If today any one of us in this who is a biggest supporter of RERA can tell me, ki, Abhay, if this project is registered, you are sure there will be no complaint, project will be completed on time, agreement will be fair, all these things, you don't have to worry at all. That day I will see RERA has passed. But today, if that confidence is lacking, I don't think RERA has achieved its objective. So I am very disappointed with the way RERA has functioned. Doesn't mean that RERA cannot perform. If one, and I don't have to say that, even Supreme Court has commented. I'm not the only one. Supreme Court at the top level has commented not one, 3 times in last 1.5 years. So that is also there. So RERA has potential, but it has not lived up to its potential. That is my judgment. Thank you so much.
I think very candid and constructive views from Abhay, and we will hear from him more on this. We saw the insolvencies, and Siddharth, this is for you. We saw roughly around, as per IBBI details database, 255 resolution plans got approved which were into insolvencies for real estate sector. And currently there are 481 companies to be precise are still there which are under insolvency. We have also seen that, matters which reached up to Supreme Court. We first saw Unitech, then we saw Amrapali, we saw Supertech now and Supernova, latest in the race. Supreme Court has come up with a different plan. They are out of insolvency. They are being dealt with under a framework which is akin to insolvency under the IBC, but not exactly under the framework of IBC. All these things, are these leading to a situation where we are thinking, or we are forced to think, that IBC is not the way forward for real estate companies? Do we need something else? Because the objective, at some point of time, whether we admit it or not, under IBC, the financial creditors would want to be looking for their recoveries, whereas the objective largely of the Supreme Court and of the government also, that home buyers should get their homes first. Rightfully so. That should be the objective. So are we going towards a situation where maybe are we looking for something new framework for distress resolution in this sector?
Sure. So first of all, let me clarify. Of course, Surendra is the moderator and I'm Siddharth, so I don't want to take the credit away from him. So just to answer that, I think we have talked, and I agree with you, sir, that IBC was originally not envisaged, and maybe the technicalities of insolvency code were not envisaged to be catering to a real estate sector. Right? It's a very complicated sector, and as time has passed and as the law has evolved with home buyers becoming financial creditors, becoming a part of the committee of creditors, it has become very, very home buyer centric, as it should rightly so, right? Because they are the main stakeholders, their houses are at stake. So my short answer to that is whether the IBC in the current form really caters to real estate insolvency in its entirety, the answer is no. I'll be very candid. The legislators, the regulators, IBB is making a lot of effort to bring in some, clarifications, and that is commendable. But right now, as we speak, and Surendra, you also said that I'm seeing an inconsistent practice by courts also when it comes to real estate insolvency. Sometimes you're talking about a situation where you're talking about a reverse insolvency. You're talking about a project-specific insolvency in context of real estate. Somewhere you're talking about a PMC system where, you're just saying that this agency should step in and construct the projects and get it done, right? So, and we'll come to the project-specific insolvency later, but there is an extremely inconsistent practice in terms of real estate insolvency. So the IBC in its current form may not really cater to real estate insolvency, with one caveat, that IBC will work in context of real estate where it's more of a creditor-centric approach, where the promoter maybe is not cooperating, where the financial creditors, the institutions, banking institutions are much more, the home buyers are less, and you need a law which would have a moratorium imposed and maybe dictate terms to the promoter that you should not interfere in the process. So it depends on what sort of case it is, right? On the other hand, if you think that the promoter is cooperating, the stakeholders would want the existing promoter or the developer, who's best placed, by the way, to develop a particular project, maybe don't take it to IBC. Maybe with RERA, of course, with all its problems, maybe give more tooth to RERA and do a RERA-led, resolution rather than an insolvency-led resolution. So I think we need to bifurcate it into various buckets, where in context of a present circumstances, maybe a RERA-led resolution is required, where it is required for the company to be sent to insolvency as a whole. Third bucket is where it is required to do a project-specific insolvency. The fourth bucket could be where it could be a PMC sort of a structure where you just get a good developer or a builder or PMC who can construct the houses. So one-size-fits-all approach would absolutely not work in context of IBC. You have to see case-to-case basis and then take a call, which is the best solution for stakeholders, including home buyers. And of course, there are problems in terms of the regulations and the legislature. They do not actually envisage the project-specific insolvency in detail. We have been doing it. It's more of court-led. It's more of, ad hoc, I would say. And therefore, there is also a need to maybe codify it or bring detailed regulations about project-specific insolvency as to how you're going to go about it. So that's my sort of quick take on this.
Fair, Siddharth. I come to, you want to add something? Please.
Small thing, yeah. See, the problem of insolvency or financial stress comes in a project when we allow somebody to start any project when financial closure is not there. Now, if we take care at that time, if the financial closure is taken care of, the project will come under stress only in very, very exceptional cases. I think this problem of IBC or RERA can be taken care of if we hit this financial closure. Right. You have financial closure, you start project. If you don't have financial closure, don't start project. Number one. Now, how it can be done? RERA right now provides that you cannot do a pre-sale. Okay. You cannot advertise your project if your approvals are not there. Now, what happens is that a lot of time developer is not sure of his project. He's not sure of his product. He don't know the composition of his project, whether 3 BHK will sell fast, 4 will sell fast. He want to do a pre-marketing study. He want to speak to 50, 100, 200 brokers. He want to take a feel of market. RERA says, you don't do this. You don't circulate it. Allow little bit of pre-marketing without approval. Don't allow him to take money. Even if they take money, it remains in some escrow or some arrangement. But allow him to launch only when his financial closure is there, whether by way of bank finance, whether by way of private equity, whether by way of pre-sales. Once he demonstrates, then I will say that the stress in future projects in India will be far less. And this policy, a lot of countries are doing it.
Sure. Manish, I think that's perfect time for you to come in, and sorry for keeping you waiting.
No, that's fine.
What are the institutional investors like SDFC looking for today when they look at any real estate developer? How do they monitor? What are they looking forward before funding?
So the most important factor is you invest and you pray to God that all goes well and nothing goes wrong. But, to be really honest, I think as a country we have evolved in the last 10, 15 years. RERA has definitely helped in a big way because as Anuranjan mentioned, the kind of things that we would want to do in a project from a project monitoring perspective, because now RERA is there, a lot of it gets taken care of. For example, there is a master collection account. Now, the moment money hits master collection account, we can control each and every penny where the money is going, right? Earlier, even if you insist a developer to open a single account, there were chances that, if, let's say, they wanted to do something wrong, they would open some other account and take money in those accounts. So those kind of problems are addressed. But having said that, it's still a very, very difficult sector. you compare it to any other sector, a customer sees the end product and then only buys. Whereas over here, customer is buying a product in the hope that it will look something like this, right? And, over the course of 5-6 years, there are uncertainties from a developer's perspective also. Sometimes, there's an Iran war, because of which the cost increases. There are, because of pollution in Delhi, 2-3 months, 4 months, the construction is shut. There are challenges that the developer also faces, and the margins in India are not significant, for a developer also. So, you have to be on the ground, watching every step, on a monthly and quarterly basis to see that the money that you've invested is safe. And at each given point of time, there's enough juice left for the developer to make sure that the developer is incentivized to complete the project. Because if you are just looking at your interest and not the developer's interest, then, why will they work hard, And it's not only the specific project that you invest in, the overall situation of the developer has to be healthy. Because if one project gets impacted, now, the customers are very aware. If one project gets impacted, it gets out in social media, and then the other projects also, customers will stop paying, and then one thing will lead to another. So, it's a very, very tricky situation. Whenever, such situation arises, it's just that, as a fund, you cannot afford to just look at the project monitoring of the project that you've invested in, but you have to very, very be vigilant about the larger, issues impacting a developer. And as far as, monitoring is concerned, that's obviously very, very important. You have to see, how the sales are performing, what is the softer tone in the market about the project, whether the velocity and the collections are in tandem with what you had underwritten, and the costs are in line with, what you had anticipated. So a lot goes into, project monitoring, and as I said, the overall health of the developer also is very, very important. And just to, take some clues from what Anuranjan had mentioned, I think the point about financial closure is absolute must. A lot of government projects, when they award projects to private companies, they insist on financial closure on day one. And that ensures that the project gets completed. But, the other point about pre-sales, although it's a good way to, assess the success of a particular project, but I think from a customer's perspective, it may be a little bit tricky. But, financial closure is something that, should definitely be insisted.
Sure. Thanks, Manish. Now, Mr. Agarwal, you heard about from SDFC, what are they looking at when when they intend to fund any particular project. How do you see the market demand nowadays? Is it, what are the patterns, what are the market pattern you are seeing in terms of demand, or any particular, any particular places where you are seeing the demand is higher?
Look, India is a very big market, and demand is always there since people are coming into the urban life. People are expecting good homes. And, it is the reason is the affordability. Everyone right now in last 3-4 years has gone for a luxury rush. Everybody is launching a luxury project. So if you go on that has actually taken out the test of the people who really want a home. If you go into the market, considering the land prices which has shoot up from 2020 till today, it is making something which is, which Manish rightly said, there is no juice left into that. That is the reason people are moving in a different market. And demand is there. A person who is earning 20 lakh rupees a year can't buy a property more than 2 crore rupees. Right. You need to do these kind of things, financial jugglery, how he's going to pay, what time he's going to pay. But the problem is that demand is there. Like somebody was talking before this session, that demand is there from 1.5 crore rupees to 2.5 crore rupees bracket. Demand is already there. Since nobody is now expecting a flat within 40 lakh, 50 lakh in an approved colony. Nobody is expecting that, except that is something which is a government-backed, or where government is supporting something. From a developer, they are expecting that the price should be within the range of 1 crore to 2.5 crore rupees. But the raw material, which is mainly the land for the developer has gone beyond these calculations. If you do a calculation on that, then really you can't come out with a project, even though if you have the higher FSI, even though these are things. But if you calculate, the educate return on capital is not there. If you are going to any fund house, they have an expected return. Considering this, since they are bringing funds from outside, they also have to go on certain things, the forex, this and that. So everything is getting impacted. And considering that it is very difficult to bring in capital where the demand is right now. So, sometimes we think like pre-sales and all that. Right now, if you go to the market, RERA has brought in that confidence in the market right now. Everybody is asking what is the RERA number of this project. So that is there. So it is very difficult as of in the current law to sell as a pre-sale and all that. And thereafter, so many challenges are there. So demand is there, but we are not able to meet that demand. Now, if the government comes in, they provide some kind of land consolidation, like earlier this used to happen in Delhi, where DDA used to give the land on a subsidized rate. So the developer were in a position to supply. It was there if you go still, some part of like Noida. Government is consolidating land. But if you go on that, the land prices even of those agencies has gone at the market level. So it is not that where the developer is getting that much of profit that they can bring. So demand is there. However, it is only we need to find out some ways and means that where the demand is, can we come out with a project within that.
Thank you. I think quick inputs, I think closing comments from everyone. And Mr. Sandeep, I think closing comments from your side that with respect to stress resolution, do we need any other framework? Before, the damage is done, should there be some early warning signs which are monitored? Just quick input from your side, maybe up 2 minutes.
Surinder, as I had said earlier, we need a stronger framework for RERA, more implementable, more efficiently and effectively implementable. And IBC, as I said, was never designed for real estate. So we must protect this legislation for manufacturing industries and only for those stressed real estate projects which are actually stressed. Not for projects which are actually, guided into this legislation. We must protect this legislation. It's a beautiful piece of legislation. We need a stronger framework for RERA because once real estate moves out of IBC and is parked into RERA for effective implementation and effective and efficient implementation, this piece of legislation is quite sustainable for the present industry, for the present manufacturing industry that we have.
Thank you. Manish, quick input with respect to, and we often hear from market that institutional investors favors large companies. They only look for large developers.
So, yes and no. What happens is, when you have large amount of capital to deploy, then the comfort with which you can develop with large players is obviously that much more. But having said that, it becomes a responsibility of any institution to keep supporting emerging players also. So, like for us also, we've been in existence for last 10 years, and there are 2 developers that were new, when we started, and we started venture funding them, and now they've grown into a big developer house. So, it's a complicated sector, and for any, whether the fund house is small or big, backing any developer is not very easy, and if a developer has a track record and if it is a large corporate, then, a lot of things get taken care of, then, that much more margin of safety is there and that much more willingness to protect the brand will be there. So, our underwriting then becomes much more easier. But, the way this sector is going, a lot of consolidation is happening. In the last 6 years, for example, the sales done by the top 25 developers in India has increased by 15%. So, it's not only the fund house. I mean, if you look at it from a customer's perspective, if you look at it from bank's perspective, from vendor's perspective, from anyone's perspective, right now the sector is in a big consolidation phase. When it reaches a place where, there is much more confidence amongst the customers, then I think, automatically the capital will start finding its way to smaller developers also. And by the way, giving money to big developers is not easy. Like for example, if you go to Alpha Corp, they may not take money from, a fund house because the cost is expensive.
Cost is quite, of course.
So, for us to grow, we need to have a good balance of good and small developers.
Anuranjan, quick input. Would you like to explore other places as well? Tier 2, Tier 3 cities? When you look for funding?
See, unfortunately, Tier 2 and 3.
Because government's focus is there on developing our cities, right?
No.
Smaller cities.
See, what we are doing right now is that we are going with Tier 1 developer in Tier 2 and 3 cities, and particularly focuses on some religious cities. Okay. So religious corridors or something like that, rather than the traditional Tier 2 cities definitions of the country. Yeah.
Sure. Siddharth, we also, quick input from your side with respect to SURFACE versus IBC.
Yeah, so
I think some of
just a quick input. SURFACE versus IBC, completely different. The purpose is completely different.
Yeah.
SURFACE is a recovery mechanism. IBC is for rehabilitation. So that's one.
Of course.
And I know we are running short of time. Just 2-3 quick points, just as
overall
what we feel.
on the subject.
Just overall, yeah. So I agree with my fellow panelists. You can't use IBC generally for real estate projects. So pick and choose. What is the best time to use IBC? What is the best time to use RERA? Number one. RERA should be amended to have early warning signals sort of built in, and the consequences of that should also be there. That's point number 2. Point number 3 is when you're talking about a real estate insolvency, you're talking about IBC, just do not rely on courts to do a project-specific insolvency. Get the regulation in place. There is a lot of lack of clarity. Right now, the IBC envisages a moratorium on the entire corporate debtor. There are a lot of intermingling of funds. If the company has multiple projects, there is a lot of intermingling of funds. Lenders have common charge. There are common areas. How do you calculate liquidation value if you do? How do you constitute a project-specific COC? But there would be some certain common lenders. So I'm saying that it is a very, very complicated set of analysis, and that has to be properly regulated for this to be used more effectively. That's all I would want to say.
Sure. Thank you. Mr. Upadhyay, last close. Yeah, please.
Siddharth, the major problem in this is that RERA doesn't have the protection clauses which IBC has. Like developer like us who wants to take over these projects are always worried that, past liabilities. And that how do you move forward, even the criminal liabilities, so these are the things which are there in the IBC. So RERA, and the problem in the RERA is that implementation people, their backgrounds are not to handle these kind of things. So that is a major challenge with the RERA. So the people who are implementing RERA is not from judicial background or like that. Even though who are heading that, at the tribunal level, yes, there are people who are, heading the judicial people. So they don't know what protection, like Section 8 of RERA talks about the transfer of the property and all that.
Correct.
But again, there is no protection available to a developer who is taking over.
No, so absolutely. And just a quick point that, yes, you start off with contemplating, don't jump on the IBC bandwagon because it's available. Start, and then of course it would ultimately lead to the fact that you're not able to resolve it because of these issues, and then try IBC with not the current form of IBC, with a perhaps modified form of IBC, which caters to the practical requirements, on ground realities, and therefore only then it will be effective.
Mr. Sandeep, you want to say something? Yeah.
It is what Santosh, just what you said, I completely agree with you. We don't have these safeguards in RERA, and that's why myself and my co-panelists have said that we need a stronger RERA to have that kind of safeguards for somebody who's coming in to take over a project. Section 8 certainly provides for takeover of the project, but as Santosh says rightly, it does not talk about the past liabilities. So obviously, yes, the due diligence is important, and then we must, in the act itself, we must have safeguards for developers who's taking over a stressed asset. That is why I say we need a stronger RERA for implementation. We must take clue from what are the safeguards in IBC and should park those safeguards in a RERA to make it more efficient and effective implementation.
Wonderful. Last question for this session to Mr. Abhay Upadhyay. We hear from him about what has undergone changed. Are you seeing the change in the behavior of developers or not? You explained about your thoughts on the earlier question about the RERA, but are you seeing the change in the developers' behavior or overall sentiments?
You see, I think your question has already been answered by all the panelists. Now, let me take you through this IBC and RERA discussion. So, as we are all saying that IBC, whatever stressed asset are there, so safeguard must be brought into RERA. So, what we are forgetting here is the objective of the two acts are different. Now, how can you merge both these two? This is what I'm not understanding. IBC is for stressed asset, as everybody agreed. So, no problem, no difference is there. But RERA is not to make the asset as stressed. RERA is because you are tracking the project from day one. Before that. So, since when RERA has come into existence, the objective of the whole act is that the asset should not go stressed. Because you are tracking it, everything entire, your registration is taking care of financial problems, financial closure, sanction plan approvals, loans, encumbrances of land, it's mentioned there. So if you are still thinking that despite RERA, asset will become stressed, so I don't think then you are thinking that what is the objective of RERA. So therefore, if suppose, despite RERA into picture, the asset becomes stressed, obviously some other act will come into picture. That does not, see, if you have only fire gun in your hand, there's different law, or different provision. But if you have something, you have killed someone, so then there's a different act. So I don't think both can be merged together. This is number one. Number two, we are all discussing that IBC people are... See, what we have not discussed, I think some of us must have mentioned this because you got chance. You know what has happened after the amendment in this last amendment, I don't know the year, that minimum 10% of the home buyer or 100. Now, do you realize how difficult it is? I am sure if we all have a family here, if we have a family, husband and wife, third day you disagree on anything, on going even to a restaurant or going to a friend or not going to a friend. You are saying that 100 people, unknown people will come together. You have already made life of a home buyer miserable. No, I think for the clarity of people, so once you are saying that 2,000 cases, we were just discussing off the record when we were sitting there, so we all know that maximum cases in NCLT is of RERA. Home buyers cannot go into it. Situation comes that means how can you, somebody said RERA should not be, IBC should not be for real estate cases. I agree. But that cannot be that home buyers cannot go, but builders can go. They will take the entire juice of the project and then they'll go and land there saying that the company or project is insolvent. How can that be allowed? So why are we not talking? You see, if you are fair enough for a home buyer, please understand, I am not a home buyer. I am a person who is giving you bread and butter. All the stakeholders, whether it is government, whether it is builder, whether it is legal firm, whether it is consulting firm, I am the person who is supplying you bread and butter. You must take care of me. So my point is, IBC has been made so difficult, and assume that even 10% or 100 people have come together. What will builder do? I'm sure everybody knows that. They will try to break away 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the by giving them, what you want? You want your house, chalo hum tumko idhar is project mein, us project mein de dete hain. And that is done.
Had this been less than 100, probably it would be easier for them.
See, I don't think so. What I'm saying, even if one builder can take his project to insolvency, even one home buyer should be allowed. The proposal in the act should be fair to everyone. That is my point is. Otherwise, you bar it. And as far as RERA is concerned, RERA is meant to prevent. Preventive act hai. It is not curative. Otherwise, Consumer Act was there before that. So the whole objective of RERA is to prevent from day one, monitor, and as somebody said, the stress signal. Everything give you, even if your lift, because I face that problem, I'm giving that analogy, I hope you'll agree, that, before it breaks down, it will give some signal. Some noise comes, because I stay in a 10th floor building, I see that. So we call Otis by it is giving noise, come and see, and they will do something, and then it will become smooth. So everything before breakdown gives you a signal.
That's like a gatekeeper. RERA is essentially a gatekeeper.
So if they are not managing, if they are not getting info, they are not keeping their ears to the project, I'm sure that they are going to miss it. And then after somewhere when there is no juice left, a builder will go and land this project in the IBC. So what we are saying, a law has to be fair for everyone. RERA has got enough provision if they want to, but the will to implement the law in the letter and spirit is missing. This is one thing which will change the entire section. RERA has the potential, but the people who are managing the show there, they have let it down. Let me be very clear about it. And we have given this to feedback in CAC, to the ministry. Everybody knows about what is our position. One person who can change this entire thing is RERA. And I agree, somebody said RERA is a very strong act. Yes, it is. And it has potential to change the sector, which till now it has failed to. Thank you so much.
So, gentlemen, thank you very much for very candid views. And I think it would be found useful by everyone else. Two important takeaways. We need stronger RERA with better enforcement. And second important takeaway is that IBC is not the only solution for companies which goes into stress, particularly real estate sector, considering the home buyers problem. There is a need for maybe a modified, tailored framework going forward. Thank you very much. With this, we come to end of the session. Thank you.